Jrue Holiday introduced, and there was so much gushing at the Auerbach Center. I was there. We'll talk about it. And Joe Mazzulla talking about coaching, and I am celebrating the things he's saying right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I'm here for you every Monday through Friday with a free, fresh podcast drop directly to your device if you're a subscriber. So subscribe, get the show on YouTube if you want to watch, get into the comments section, join in the fun, have some fun, join me. I'm John Karalis. I used to play once upon a time. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I'm there at the practices. I'm there at the practice facility. I'm at all the games. And today I am going to be talking about Jrue Holiday being introduced. That was a fun little excursion there. Later on, Joe Mazzulla, he talked to us, and then he did the JJ Redick podcast. So you all heard that. If you haven't, he said a few things that I am just almost giddy about. Giddy, I say, Tom Westerholm. Yeah.
Gosh,
well, yes, sure. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I am great. I am buzzing. I am amped up like everybody else in the preseason. This is the best time of the year.
It does seem to be a common theme around the Celtics right now that everybody's giddy.
Everybody's happy.
You're giddy. Everybody who's introducing Jrue Holiday is giddy.
Oh, they are the happiest people in the world. I asked Brad Stevens the question about, hey, I've never seen you smile this much in a situation like this. And he blew it off. He said, oh, so yeah, he's overreacting to me smiling. I'm like, no, you are smiling. You are like permagrin. This is like he looks like the guy who just pulled off a heist and is watching somebody else take the blame for it. Like he's just thrilled. They're so happy over there. And why wouldn't they be? They got Jrue Holiday. And it does.
A man who apparently can smother Phil Pressey. So
yeah, I mean
if that doesn't scream championship, let me tell you.
That's right. Poor Phil Pressey.
Shout out Phil Pressey, man.
I mean, as much as he was, fun and all that stuff. Jrue was going to smother him in Phil's prime at an absolute peak. Holiday was going to smother him. Yep. So yeah, as a coach who is, still young enough to get out there and play and help during practices. He stands no chance. I mean, we're talking about him coming here to guard Damian Lillard and to guard the opposing team's best players. And, oh, great, he's smothering Phil Pressey. That's encouraging. It's a nice place to start.
Yes.
But look, there's not a ton to take away out of the press conference. I think it's fun. Joe Mazzulla is an absolute lunatic. As soon as the trade goes through, he's texting him clips like, great, you're here. Here's how you guard the pick and roll with us and all of that stuff. I guess
I don't think anybody was surprised to learn that Joe Mazzulla is a complete lunatic.
No, not at all. No. And I think Holiday's been here for 3 days. 3 day guy here Monday, been in the practice facility for 3 days and had that interaction with Mazzulla. And he's very quickly oh yeah, this guy might be crazy. And I think Mazzulla will be the first person to tell you, oh yeah, I'm not right. But honestly, you have to be a little off to do this job in the NBA. You can't be well-adjusted.
Right.
And put in the amount of work. Well-adjusted people don't do the work that these guys do and have the reactions that these guys do and are driven by the little things that these guys are. So It's not a place for like people who are like calm and sipping chai tea and having a nice little wind down to their night. No, it's not a place for that. I think, Holiday obviously says all the right things, checks all the right boxes. There's a reason why they're all gushing. And Wick Grossbeck, kind of laying it on the line saying, we're going to do whatever we need to do. Talking about a 6-year plan. Didn't say specifically with these 4 guys. I want to throw that out there.
He did not.
Did not.
Yeah. 6-year plan. I got to say, man, that's ambitious.
Yeah. Well, that's what that is 1 more year of Jayson Tatum on this contract and 5 years of Jayson Tatum's next contract.
Correct.
Is the 6-year plan. That's your 6-year plan.
Yeah.
So everything beyond that is who knows. But what are your takeaways after seeing Jrue Holiday out there just chopping it up with those guys?
Well, I mean, clearly he was deflecting, right? Like I think that he wanted. I mean, there was a lot of praise being heaped on him, a lot of excitement, and rightfully so, right? Like he's an excellent basketball player and a great fit on this team, and like I don't think it's a surprise to anyone like that, that he impressed in his first practice. Like this is like a veteran guy who is like about all the things that the Celtics proclaim to be about. Like there was a reason that they were so excited to get him, right? Like it's just like 1-to-1 fit. But I mean, he definitely wanted to kind of deflect some things. I thought he definitely wanted to kind of, I don't want to say like tamp things down, but he seemed to want to kind of be like, okay, let's get to work. Like thank you.
Stay humble.
And I think that makes a lot of sense when you consider just like what he's currently going through, right? Like he is, like his wife posted that, had that long, lengthy post about like, hey, this is really hard. Moving is really hard. All this stuff, having all our, like, honestly, kind of being given up on, like in a way in Milwaukee, a place that they, loved being, and that he, a day before he got traded said he wanted to retire in a place where they had like built all these relationships with people and businesses and all this stuff. Like he's going through a lot right now. And, it makes for an odd dynamic because you have all these people up on stage with him, just as you said, gushing about him and talking about how great he is and how awesome he looked on his first day in practice. And I'm sure that was nice to hear and everything, but this is a grown man, an NBA champion who has, had a lot of people say very nice things about him in his career, who is just kind of like, yep. Thank you guys very much. I'm still struggling a little bit, and that's about as valid as it gets, right? Like, yeah, man. How many days have you been in Boston? Like, it's not many. It's So yeah, I mean, it was an odd dynamic that way, where you've got like a franchise that is just over, like just over the moon about having this guy and so excited about having him, and a guy who I think, you don't worry about him acclimating. He'll acclimate, sooner rather than later, probably, but who at this moment in time is just kind of like,
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a great point, because people don't see that part of a trade. Everybody's happy here in Boston. Everybody's happy. Jrue Holiday is here to kind of negate the Damian Lillard trade to some degree. Great. Welcome aboard. Buy your house and sign your contract, and everybody's great. You're gonna be so happy here. Meanwhile, his wife is probably still in Milwaukee. They probably still have their house. It's not like you got traded. All right, and pick everybody up. They've got kids. They're in school. Like, they have to stay back and see some of this through. And the kids have to be told. I don't know how old his kids are. They're not that old. I mean, he's only 33, so they're not. It's not like he's got college age kids. He's got young children. And yeah, you go ahead and Google that while I'm talking. But they're in school. Mom and dad are gonna have to take him out of school. Took him out of school that one day and be like, so we're not gonna live here anymore. All of the friends that you've made, you're gonna have to say goodbye. and you're going to go have to make some new friends, and that's just how it goes. And that's for everybody out there that's a dad, you included. Imagine having to do that on a whim, just like out of nowhere. Your job calls up one day and says, okay, you don't work for us anymore. You work for a team that's across the country. And then you got to go work for that other team and say, hey, can you send me to somewhere else? It's a tough situation.
Incidentally, his kids are 7 and 3. And as a father of a 6-year-old, I can tell you that moving kids that age is very hard on everybody involved. So yes, this is a challenging time.
That is a challenging time. We'll pick up more of the Jrue Holiday stuff and get into the Joe Mazzulla stuff when we come back. First, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at Birddogs. Birddogs are shorts that are designed to make you feel good, look good, because they're made of a special kind of fabric. They invented this cloud knit fabric. Looks just like khaki, but it stretches, so you get a nice little slimmer fit. It makes you look good, a little sculpted look. You might not notice, but everybody else is going to notice how good you look. Bird Dog shorts do the same thing that Lululemon does, but they fit way better. So this cloud knit fabric is also part of anti-stink, sweat wicking technology that keeps you cool and dry all day. So if you're still wearing the shorts out there, which we've had great weather in New England recently, so you can still wear your shorts, you can wear them out, you can go golfing, you can go do whatever, then you can come back, work around the house, and then head on out on a date or something. You can still wear the same shorts. They're that versatile. They're that able to kind of morph to whatever situation you want. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA right now. Birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, or use the promo code LockedOnNBA at checkout for free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. I promise you that. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the Locked On NBA podcast I host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. We have a lot of fun there, rotating hosts all week. Lots to cover in the NBA. So you want to get caught up on the Celtics, you want to get caught up on the league after that, check out the Locked On NBA podcast. All right, let's get back to our discussion here about Jrue Holiday's introduction and him joining the team here. So he's after practice he goes to a hotel. It's gonna take a while for him to get settled. In a way, it forces him to kind of focus just more on, hey, look, this is what I got to do. Between the lines, all I can do is focus and soak this stuff in. He's had one actual practice, but Paul Pierce was there, and Paul Pierce was like, "This is the hardest I've ever seen a team go." In a setup to a Michael Scott joke. I forget exactly how it was phrased by Steve Pagliuca, but let me see if I can pull the quote up here. Yeah. There was an electricity in the gym today. Paul Pierce turned to us and said he's never seen an NBA team practice in his whole career that they went that hard, that fast for that long. That's what she said.
That is absolutely what she said.
That's absolutely 100% what she. So, but they're pushing. They're practicing hard. Joe Mazzulla said in the Old Man and the Three podcast, we're going to slowly transition into that topic, that over the past month, as guys have been coming in, he says the energy's been different. And all the time he's been here, the energy is different in the building. So it has felt different just from us seeing like the workouts and the workout with Paul Pierce. And it has seemed different with this push for Porzingis and now the Holiday trade. Holiday's in there just making Phil Pressey reconsider his life choices and, kind of impressing the people who are there. I think having that guy back, it was Marcus Smart before. Now it's Jrue Holiday. Having that kind of guy on the floor, I think is so critically important for these guys to push them, because as much as I understood the Porzingis trade, having this guy back, this type of guy, Smart and Holiday, basically the same type of guy, with a little, I don't know, well, Marcus is a little more of an edge to him, but regardless, I think it's important to have that guy that just pushes and shows everybody like, no, you think you're working hard? You work harder.
Well, and he kind of hinted at that, right? Because that he talked about what it's like to win a championship, and it's hard. It's like the hardest thing that you can do in basketball, and that's the other thing that they have now, right? Like, yeah, Marcus had that little bit of an edge to him. Marcus had all of that stuff, and I mean, look, like, I think this podcast, certainly the two of us, you're not going to hear any of Marcus Smart slander. Like, that man was amazing, awesome basketball player, excellent basketball player. But like, the thing about Holiday is that he's all of those things. He's going to push you. He's going to do all this stuff. And he can speak from the experience of having been a top 2, top 3 player on a championship team. Like, he's done it. And yes, that team had Giannis and all of that. And Giannis went, completely bonkers in the championship and all of that stuff. But Jrue Holiday was right there. Jrue Holiday had to pitch in. Jrue Holiday had to do all this stuff that, like, your, star adjacent players have to do to win a title. And it is hard. He knows how to do it. He can tell you like what it takes. I mean, it's probably not a coincidence that, that guys are going hard right now with a guy like that in the building. Like, I'm sure they have their own motivations as well, but like, listen, I mean, they have a guy with actual championship pedigree on the team now who can kind of be like, if the work ever, if people start slacking, they've got a guy who can be like, hey, this isn't how you win a title. I know how to win a title. This is not it.
Yep.
Probably pretty valuable.
Giannis didn't slow down, Jayson.
Right.
Giannis didn't slow down,
right.
Jaylen. This point here, and I'm not saying that those guys, this is what they do, but if they do, he can be like, hey, this lull, this January, you guys can sit there and say this, whomever might be saying it, but you know who didn't do that? Giannis Antetokounmpo. He didn't do that. We didn't do that. I didn't do that. When we won a championship, you guys got close. You know how hard it is. I know how to get to that next 2 steps. And yeah, part of that is have Giannis on your team, but also Jayson Tatum, be like closer to Giannis. Like, you're an MVP candidate.
Yes.
That's it. Like, you're not going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, different players. But when I say be Giannis, I'm saying be an MVP candidate. Be the MVP.
Be the MVP. Be a top 5 player. Be that guy. Like, you can be that guy. Be that guy. Yeah.
Be that guy. Like, you can say all the stuff that you want, but like, Giannis did it.
Yeah.
He did it. That play where he went back, it was the block. Was it DeAndre Ayton? That play where he stepped up, the most amazing block I've ever seen in my life.
Correct. Yeah.
Better than LeBron's block against the Warriors, I say. Fight me on it. That block, that is the want, the desire to make a play in a critical spot. That's it. That right there is the experience that Holiday brings.
Yeah.
Joe Mazzulla was on the podcast, the Old Man and 3 podcast. Talk to us. Obviously he talks to us every day. I can tell everybody, Joe seems a little different, man. He seems a little more comfortable. He seems like, and he's talking about that with us on the podcast. He's basically saying, he's getting used to the fact that people care what he's trying to do. He talked on the podcast about, when I was an assistant coach, I would take the freight elevator so I could come in on a certain floor, go right into the film room, go right onto the floor, go out through the film room, go out, through the freight elevator, and out I go. Don't talk to nobody. Now he's getting used to it. He's feeling comfortable in his role. Tom, he said 3 things to me, or 3 things on the podcast that to me are worth celebrating And when I mean, like literally, when I talk about being giddy, being excited, I'm as excited for these three things that Joe Mazzulla said as anything for the Celtics. Want to know what they are?
Not before a break.
Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Remember to subscribe. Get this podcast directly to your device. If you want to know more about these other teams the Celtics are facing, there's a Locked On podcast for all teams. So if the Celtics play the Sixers on Sunday, listen to Locked On Sixers to get prepared for that. You want to go laugh at the Miami Heat? Go listen to Locked On Heat. Listen to them, cry about not getting Damian Lillard. So that would be just go ahead and listen to some of these other podcasts on the network. So go check those out wherever you found this podcast. All right, Tom.
Okay, now I'm ready.
Now you're prepared? Good.
Yes.
Spent time well spent girding your loins for three things
In
that
Birddogs.
Joe Mazzulla said to JJ Redick. I feel like the old David Letterman, which you probably don't even know what I'm talking about.
I really don't.
You don't. David, your youth. Oh, your youth. Okay.
Not even that young. All right.
So he said a lot of things. He said a lot of things that really make me. I think they reinforce some of the things that I've been saying about Mazzulla. But defensively, two of these things have to do with the defense. He said his takeaways from last year are they didn't force enough turnovers, which we know is absolutely true, and they didn't have a curveball. And the other thing he said, I'll just get all of them out now. Analytics, which he lives by, loves analytics. He just thrives, inject analytics into his bloodstream. He says, you can throw those out in the playoffs. I was like, huh? What? He said, the sample size is too small. I feel like he must have heard me say it on the podcast because I know I've said those words on this podcast. Throw the analytics out the window because in a series, they don't matter. The analytics are derived from 82 games playing against opponents that aren't preparing for you. In the playoffs, you got to be prepared to throw those analytics out the window. So let's just start there for a second. When I heard that, I'm not even joking. I threw my arms up and was like, yeah, he gets it. What's your reaction?
Okay, so my reaction, he's 100% right. And also, I mean, I think to your point, do you mean to tell me that Joe Mazzulla is more comfortable after an entire summer of preparing than he was after having less time to adjust to being the coach of the Boston Celtics than Jrue Holiday had to being the point guard of the Celtics? It's odd that that's the case. Also, and this is like unrelated and probably unhelpful. Like, if you want a case to cut down the regular season games significantly, here it is. It's such a different game in the playoffs.
Oh,
that
yeah.
all the analytics that you use in the regular season are thrown out the window. And he's right.
Yes.
It's a completely different game. That's insane.
That, to me, complete side note, this should be, maybe we could have done this in the offseason.
Yeah, we should have.
I
I go way overboard on this take. I think they should do it like football. Like,
I mean, well, okay. You are going a little bit overboard.
Yeah.
But I think one of the single biggest issues that the NBA has right now is that the regular season is so different than the playoffs. That is a major problem to me because you play a certain way over the course of the regular season. The playoffs come around, you play a completely different style of basketball. The fouls are different. It's unavoidable because of the nature of a series, preparing, pouring over things. But there's got to be a way to bring those closer together. Table that because this could go 5 hours.
We'll do it sometime for sure.
But that is a real problem. But and yes, this is a symptom of that problem. But it's the understanding. And you're right. I love the sarcasm because it's the thing that we've been saying. And for the people who are consistently in the comments, fire Joe Mazzulla. One of the common questions that I get, I do a weekly Q&A for Boston Sports Journal. I do mailbags here. I've done them once a week, and I get tons of questions that don't make it into the mailbags. And it's a very common question is, if the Celtics don't do this, don't get to this spot, don't do blah, 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 is Joe Mazzulla's job on the line? People are just itching to find the line to fire Joe Mazzulla. And I've been dying, you've been dying, the people who have been on Joe Mazzulla's side be like, yeah, he made mistakes last season. He definitely made mistakes. I've been critical of, everybody's been critical of him. He's critical of himself.
Yes.
Give him the time to look at the damn film and sit back and have like a glass of wine, smoke a cigar, and think longfully, just go back and be like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Like sometimes you just got to sit back and be like, oh, I might have been a jerk today, and like be better tomorrow. Like that just sometimes you got to sit back and be honest with yourself. And Joe Mazzulla did that. He sat back and he said, I should have coached certain situations differently. I should have not relied on the analytics as much as I did, because the playoffs come around and you got to be different. Now, throw in the other stuff. The Celtics weren't, and this is why Brad Stevens did what he did. The Celtics didn't force enough turnovers, and they didn't have a curveball to throw at the other team. All you do is switch. He talked about all we do is switch. And when all you do is switch, there's nothing else that, teams get ready for that. And so you throw in some drop defense, you throw in some people like, why are you playing drop? Because you can't just switch all the time. And they're looking for the curveball. So my curveball that I've been talking about this summer, I was heavy on this during Summer League. Zone defense. Throw a freaking zone at some other teams. It kills Boston. Other teams struggle with zone the first time they see it. Throw a curveball out there. Get some junk defenses in there. I will say that Eric Spoelstra's rise, he rode tricky junk zone defenses to the top of the coaching ladder. And that's not the only thing. Obviously, he's obviously a very good coach, very good with relationships, very good with scheming and all that. But the zones, all of the tricky stuff that he's done is part of the scheme. That's his curveball. He's a great curveball pitcher.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if you're the Celtics, right, if you want to start doing some junky stuff, if you want to start doing some zone stuff, one of the most important things you can have is smart defenders.
Yes.
You run a 2-3 zone right now, and you're the Celtics. The top of that zone is Jrue Holiday and Derek White.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't get a lot smarter than that. That is as talented and as smart and as lanky and long. That is a monstrous duo. And I mean, it obviously is if you go man and everything else, but it just helps so much if you're going to start throwing stuff out there, if you're going to start changing stuff up, to have guys who are super high IQ. And those two guys are just made for that kind of thing, made to kind of swallow things up top. They'll be that whatever the Celtics end up implementing, whatever curveballs they throw out there, especially defensively, those two are going to be just a perfect plug and play for that.
I love the idea of Holiday and Derek White at the top of the zone. In a 2-3, I'd even go so far as to say Jayson Tatum in the middle, just to blow up a lot of that stuff in the middle, the mid-range jumpers. You need some speed there. You need a little bit of lateral quickness. You need somebody that's comfortable chasing around a little bit in the middle there. Porzingis can play. Just give him a little area. He can, and he's big enough to if he's closing out on you, it's holy crap, I'm not shooting over this guy. You give
it's not quite a Rob closeout, but it is a
but he's a 7'3" closeout.
Absolutely.
And that dude, like Al Horford said, he's a legit 7-3.
Yeah.
He is a legit 7-3. Well, he stood there in the scrum, and I was like, I'm 6'5", and I'm like, okay, let me reach this all the way up there.
You used to play.
And I used to play. And look, so Al Horford, throw Al Horford in there. You sub Jaylen out, put Al Horford in, and play a zone for a little bit, and have Horford not have to switch, just handle a little area, and then Tatum can kind of back him up. Porzingis can go close out, and Tatum can kind of back. I like Tatum as the guy that can make the decisions, and he's quick enough to back everybody up, and then you can kind of rotate behind that. So anyway, that I've been saying the Celtics should play zone for a while. When I hear Joe Mazzulla say, we have no curveball, we need a curveball, that's it. That is the curveball to me. Not forcing enough turnovers. I've been saying, and this was with Rob now on the team, so he's gone. I wonder if this philosophy is still going to be something that they will do, but I've been saying that they're going to be a little bit more of a high-risk defense on the perimeter, gambling a little bit more for steals, knowing that you got, now before I was saying you got Rob and Porzingis back there. Are they going to put Porzingis in that position? They could have a design to say, hey, if you see somebody gamble for a steal, this is how we're going to do it. I like the ability for them to do that, but for the fact that those three things have like really resonated with me in my little notebook for the what he said on that podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what he brings this year. I just think like I know we've hammered all summer, and I know it's probably people are probably sick of hearing us say it, but I just don't think you can. I don't think it's possible to overstate how difficult that situation was and how different it is now. And I think, look, everybody is so impressed with Brad Stevens, the GM, right? And rightfully so. He's made a lot of really good moves, a lot of really intriguing moves, a lot of really aggressive moves. And Brad Stevens, the GM, is so convinced that Joe Mazzulla is the guy that he stuck with him in this summer where he had all the cover in the world to move on to somebody, more experienced, somebody with more, league know-how, whatever it might be. Brad didn't do that. Brad stuck with Joe Mazzulla. Brad wants Joe Mazzulla. Brad stuck with this situation. And I think that should speak pretty highly to people of what, Joe Mazzulla can do when he's given more than like a weekend to prepare to be the head coach of the Boston Celtics of the NBA.
Listen to that podcast, everybody, and you will hear he very obviously knows what he's talking about. Now, he has philosophies that are a little bit different. Talked about the timeout philosophy. He still has that philosophy. He said what he said was, I didn't teach it well enough. And that's an interesting thing to say. Like, have guys prepared. Like, when we give up a 10-2 run, don't look to me for a timeout. This is what our plan is. And he admits, I didn't teach it well enough. And he needs to be able to teach it better. He needs to be able to teach certain situations, late game situations without a timeout. When you're talking about 14 seconds left on the clock coming up and not getting a shot off, like, he needs to teach that situation better. When we have this late game situation, here's what we're trying to do. And obviously he could have done things differently himself, but it's a learning process. He is a smart guy. He is a smart guy. He has his flaws. He has his personality quirks. He is a little bit of a lunatic, but he's not, I can say this unequivocally. He is not stupid when it comes to basketball. He is a smart basketball guy. I have been fully, even though I've been critical, I've been fully on board with giving him the chance. I think this has been the best course of action. I've heard him talk for 3 days now, plus this podcast. I could not feel more comfortable in my thought process when it comes to Mazzulla, that this is the right guy. Give him the time. I think this could be a really good year for him.
I buy it.
Yep. All right. That's it. I got nothing else. I mean, I got plenty. We can keep going, but I'm supposed to stop now because we're at 35.
All right. You don't want to talk about how the NBA should have like 25 games in the regular season?
Oh, yes. Let's do that. I'm gonna I'm gonna wrap up the podcast. I'm gonna stop recording, and we're gonna talk about that for 3 hours.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
And I appreciate all of you for coming on to the show here. If you're new, thank you for listening. If you're new to the podcast, if you're new to the YouTube, hi, thank you for coming along for this ride. If you're still here after this time, would love it if you subscribed, get into that comment section. Let me know what you think. Even if I'm not responding in the comment section, I do see a lot of those. It's a little bit busier for me with the practices and all of that stuff. It's a little bit harder for me to get to all of that, but still share your comments with me. Love to see it. Love to hear it. And if you are a regular subscriber, you everydayer, I keep talking to people. Shout out to the Bowden coaching staff that guys that I talked to today who also listen to the podcast. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for doing that. Now share it. Tell everybody. Tell your team. Tell everybody in your team, hey, your assignment, work on your free throws, work on your defensive slides, and listen to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Watch it too on YouTube. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.